we're seeing that in the same thing in the U.S. Government's going to pay for my Social Security. No, the government's not going to. There will not be any Social Security. That's just a lie. And those Medicare benefits and the Social Security benefits are not. They do not have money for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the system is kind of bankrupt, but we're all pretending that it's not.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be a fundamental change to the system, and that change is coming, and Bitcoin's going to be part of that change.
In today's video, we're exploring the controversial topic of investment diversification with Fred Krueger, a prominent figure in the crypto. One of the key insights Fred Krueger shares is the paradigm shift brought about by Bitcoin's core features, particularly its ability to enable self-custody and borderless transactions. Unlike traditional fiat currencies, Bitcoin allows individuals to hold and transfer their wealth independently without reliance on centralized intermediaries like banks. This newfound financial sovereignty, coupled with Bitcoin's finite supply and resistance to debasement, represents a powerful antidote to the shortcomings of the existing monetary system. Central to Fred Krueger's thesis is the idea that Bitcoin represents a revolutionary form of money, one that transcends mere payment technology and serves as a new unit of account for the digital age. By understanding Bitcoin's unique value proposition, self-custody, censorship resistance, and scarcity, individuals can position themselves to navigate the seismic shifts reshaping the global economy. Fred Krueger emphasizes the importance of education in fostering widespread adoption of Bitcoin, acknowledging the cognitive barriers that hinder many from fully grasping its significance. He likens Bitcoin's growth trajectory to natural phenomena governed by power laws, where an exponential adoption unfolds over time, irrespective of individual actions. This perspective underscores the inevitability of Bitcoin's ascendance as the preeminent form of money in the digital era. We will now bring you clips from the interview where Fred Krueger provides her latest insights. We hope you enjoy the video.
I think there's a couple things that Bitcoin does much better than regular money, right? And the first thing I think it does is it allows your money to be held in custody by yourself and moved wherever you want, right? And, if you have euros and you move to America, your euros are basically useless. We do not accept the euro over here, right?
Yeah.
The dollar, my dollars in Netherlands are pretty useless, But Bitcoin is this unit where I can hold my Bitcoin in a wallet, and I can take that wallet anywhere I want in the world, right? And that's a fundamentally new thing, and I think that's actually the killer app of Bitcoin, right? Is that it's sort of it's money that you can transfer, you can hold, and you can move around the world, right? That's the first thing. I think it's just, and nothing has this because fiat really has to be stored in a bank account, right?
Yeah.
And then there's some third party that's kind of gating it. Bitcoin can be stored, just in a wallet, right? And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, I can send Bitcoin anywhere to anybody, anywhere in the world without an intermediary either, right? So I don't need a checkbook to send it. I don't need a wire to send it. I can send it to anybody in the world. And again, that's a really new thing, right? Now, other cryptocurrencies have that capability, as they have the capability of the wallet, right? But I would think those two things are the thing that are the biggest capabilities of crypto in general, right? And then the third thing is, this sort of finite supply, right? So, it cannot be debased. And I think between those things, I think you have something that is extremely powerful. And it's extremely powerful for people to keep their money out of the reach of the government.
Yeah.
And that I think is the biggest, that's the core driver of Bitcoin's growth. Number one driver is I want to take my money and I want to move it outside of the banking system. I want to move it outside of the government system. If we Bitcoiners are right, and I think we are, right? But if this is going to become the future world money, right? Mm-hmm. Then if you don't get involved at year 15 of the future of world money, you kind of miss pretty much the biggest thing that that's going to change the world economy, going forward. I don't see anything that's going to be bigger than that, right? Because if the entire money supply changes to a world where we're running Bitcoin, and if that happens within the next, say, 20 years, well, the difference between you not getting involved now and getting involved 20 years from now is, it's going to be completely night or day. A lot of people in Europe sort of believe that the government's going to take care of them, right? Like, the government's going to provide my pension. The government's going to do this. Government's going to take care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that's probably an incorrect assumption. We're seeing that in the same thing in the U.S. Government's going to pay for my Social Security. No, the government's not going to. There will not be any Social Security. That's just a lie. And those Medicare benefits and the Social Security benefits are not. They do not have money for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the system is kind of bankrupt, but we're all pretending that it's not.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be a fundamental change to the system, and that change is coming, and Bitcoin's going to be part of that change. I think part of the thing is, like, it's hard without looking at sort of quantitative numbers of how much this is catching on, and that's one of the things I've been kind of doing on Twitter recently is I've really been focusing on kind of trying to explain to people about these power laws, and not just about power laws of price, but like power laws of adoption, right? So, Bitcoin at the end of the day, it is growing almost exponentially. It's growing like a weed, okay?
Yeah.
And basically, 25% a year, there's more Bitcoin users every year. And it doesn't matter whether Bitcoin's price is going up or down, the usage is increasing, right? And there's all these ways of measuring that. You can measure people who have 1 Bitcoin, or people who have 1/10 of a Bitcoin, or addresses that have 1/100th of a Bitcoin, or even addresses that have 10 Bitcoin. And you see these things are growing at sort of a geometric rate. This is also growing in terms of price. It's also growing in a very consistent way, but it's a little harder to really appreciate and understand that because it's happening in this logarithmic kind of way. And we have very bad intuition for logarithmic growth. If you ask most people who are not in Bitcoin, or even people who are in Bitcoin, you say, explain the price of Bitcoin. They'd be like, well, there was, back in the day, a long, long time ago, Bitcoin was really cheap, right? Like you were saying, right? In 2013, it was like a couple $100, right? You can buy Bitcoin for $200, right? And then, so there was this prehistory where it was very cheap. And then in 2017, it kind of went from $1,000 to $20,000, right? Almost 20,000. Then it crashed. Then it was like dead. And then it went in late 2020, it rose again from the dead, and it went to $60,000. And then it stayed there for about a year, went down and went back up. It hit 60,000, 69,000, the second peak. Then it crashed. And then it did nothing for 3 years. It died. And then last year it went back up. Well, that doesn't sound like a straight line at all, right? But if you look at it on a logarithmic space and you say, great, let's look at the logarithm of Bitcoin price, right? Which the logarithm is a good way that you can put a graph of Bitcoin price over a very wide time scale, right? So from when Bitcoin was at 10 cents, right? So the logarithm is -1 at 10 cents, right? To right now where Bitcoin, let's say it's roughly $100,000, not quite 100,000 yet, but 100,000 would be 10 to the power 6. The logarithm of it in base 10 is 6. So you went from -1 to +6, right?
Yeah.
So you look at that, and now the trick is look at time also on a logarithmic basis. So look at time starting at the Genesis block, and 15 years from there. So 10 years that's 1, right? Because 10 to the power 1, 10 to the power 1 is 10, right? And so, you start at 0, you go to a little bit beyond 1. Now you're at, 1.4, right? Or 1.3, and So if you look at time that way and logarithm price, now you see, whoa, it's a complete straight line.
Yeah.
It's very clear. Once you see it, you're like, I can't unsee that. It's completely a straight line. And now it wobbles around the straight line, but it's very clear that it's growing linearly. Not possible that it's random, right?